there's nobody who's writing me a check for the idea of liquid death. They're like, this is stupid. You're crazy. Like, we launched Liquid Death in a bit of a backwards way than most, I think, beverage brands launch, which was we launched a year before we met science. We launched Liquid Death on social media before we ever had product, because we knew that with such a crazy idea like Liquid Death, there's nobody who's writing me a check for the idea of Liquid Death. They're like, this is stupid. You're crazy. Like, who would ever buy this? It's a negative name. It says death. Retailers will never carry it, yada, yada, yada. So I knew that I had to prove it out as a concept on social first before I could actually make people feel like I'm de-risking this thing a bit to actually raise. So we designed the can to look like a 3D realistic can. We shot a $1,500 video, and then we just put it on Facebook. No Twitter, no Instagram, just Facebook. We put maybe, I don't know, $3,000 in paid media behind the video. And then cut to 3 months later, we have more Facebook followers than Aquafina. The video has 3 million views. We've got a range of DMs from, hi, I am a 7-Eleven franchisee in the Midwest. How do I get this in my stores? Or, hi, I'm the biggest non-alc beverage distributor in New York City called Big Geyser. How do we talk to a sales representative to distribute this? And we didn't even have product yet,
right,
or no idea of how we were even going to really make it. So then I used all of that social traction and distributor interest and retailer interest to then start raising a small friends and family round so we could actually produce physical product. Because with cans, the minimums are really, really high. Like 250,000 cans is the lowest you can actually produce with a can manufacturer. So it's a little bit capital intensive just to even start playing the game.
How much is a 250,000? How much? A 250,000 of product? What would that cost? I mean, if you're just starting, what would that cost?
I mean, it all depends what you're filling in there. But I mean, you're talking, 150, 200, 250 grand just to like kind of get started, probably, doing cans. So yeah, once we then kind of raised a little bit, we started producing cans. We bottle, or I should say we can and source our water in Austria, in the Alps. Once we had physical cans that people could hold.
Let me ask you,
yeah.
what does that mean whenever people are like, oh, this is, spring water from this mountain? It's like, my head is always like, this is BS. What does this mean? Does that matter? Like, A, is this true? B, does that matter? So like, why do you go get your water from Austria in the Alps? Like, what is that? Is that branding? Is that like, is there something about water that I don't know? Like, why do you have to go there to get your water?
So let's be totally honest. Water, for the most part, I should say, for most people, is water.
Yeah.
Like if you had people try to, even water snobs, if you had them blind taste test Fiji versus Evian versus whatever, can they really tell the difference? Probably not, right? But
I've done this test many times as an Evian drinker. Evian Evian and Fiji taste similar to me. Evian versus Crystal Geysler, like it tastes different. I've bet money and I've got it right before.
That's interesting. But yeah, I think the things that make water, that affect the taste of water are the natural minerals and how much of them there are in the water, and the pH of the water. Is it more acidic? Is it more basic? And what those minerals are affect how acidic or how basic it is. So for us, our water comes from the Alps, and it literally goes right from the mountain into the can. Obviously, it goes through filters and things that filter out debris and all of that. And then we put it through like a pasteurization process that makes sure everything, it's all clean and good to go. But everything in that water that's the natural mineral profile of the water that has been built up over probably hundreds of years in the mountain. And it's like, naturally alkaline at 7.8 or 7.9 pH. It's got a nice mineral level, nice mouth feel when you're drinking it because of the level of minerals. So that comes right off that way. Everything's natural about it. Almost every major water brand in the US, whether that's Smart Water, Essentia, Aquafina, Dasani. Most of those brands, they're using municipal tap from the that then they reverse osmosis, which strips everything out of water, all the natural minerals, all the bad stuff, everything. So it's literally just like empty water. Then they have to add in minerals back in to kind of make it taste good. So they'll add in the natural things that occur in water, but just kind of artificially with just doing it at the factory to kind of make something that has a decent pH and a decent mineral profile that tastes good. So those are kind of the two options. When you say something is spring water, it's very strict from the FDA of what that has to be. Like, to call it spring water, you cannot alter the original mineral profile of the water. So even if you take it off the mountain, if you put it through reverse osmosis and it strips out the natural minerals and you add them back in, you can't call it spring water anymore because you've altered the original thing. So, you know, our water, like I said, that's kind of how we think about it. Everything we have in our water is natural. That's how it comes off the mountain. It's kind of its own perfect thing. We don't have to go through the whole process of like using municipal tap water from the factory, stripping everything out, adding stuff in, and kind of like creating a water.
Right.
You know, that's really
okay. And you know, I've never actually had liquid death. It's flat water though, right? It's not sparkling and it's not flavored.
We have a sparkling version, but we have a still and a sparkling. Yeah.
And so you sorry, just to sort of finish it. So you took that, you know, you raised a little bit, you did the social media to prove, hey, we can build a fun brand that people resonate with. Then you figured out, okay, to produce the minimum run, I'm going to need a couple $100,000 to get this thing off the ground. And you raised kind of the friends and family round. That was from Science, or afterwards Science came about and they wrote a bigger check?
We raised the friends and family round just to basically cover like a super limited, you know, the smallest run of product we could do.
Right.
And then once I finally had a physical can of Liquid Death for the first time, which was probably around October of 2018, we had a guy that we knew who knew someone at Science who said, hey, you guys should really talk to Science. Like, they'd probably be all over this. So we went and met with Science and brought them a physical can. And once someone could really hold it, and it wasn't just like us showing digital images from social, it made it way different. It just like, they understood the magic of it and how cool this would be walking around with this, or how, you know, how into this people would be. So then that's when we kind of decided to do a deal with Science. And over the next 2 months after that, they helped us gear up our D2C launch, where we launched online in January of last year.